You guys want to go ahead and let Randall finish eating. Let Randall finish. We'll call you up. What's that? There's not much there, so I'll just call him up when the time is right. Good afternoon and welcome to Downtown Rotary. Great to see you here today. I'd ask that you rise and join me in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that you remain standing. We'll have Jack Marsh come forward to share the invocation.
Creator God, the goodness of a community is best measured by its heart. Quality of life is a reflection of the qualities of people. Sioux Falls is a special place not because we are without problems, but because we are open to confronting our shortfalls and seizing opportunities to make a difference. Credit goes to men and women, past and present, who care for neighbors and strangers alike, regardless of their circumstances and backgrounds. We are especially grateful for the example set by leaders like Randall Beck, Tamian Dysert, and many others. We ask for a blessing upon those in our midst who, with passion and commitment, generously share their time, talent, and experience, not for any personal gain or glory, but for the benefit of the community as a whole. Their spirit is inspiring and contagious. From Micah chapter 6, verse 8, the Lord God has told us what is right and what he demands. See that justice is done. Let mercy be your first concern, and humbly obey your God. And all the people said, Amen.
All right, thank you, Jack, and thank you, Jesus. Jesus, do we have a running mic that we can use? We're going to go ahead and welcome our guests here today, and I know we have a number of them, which is fantastic. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Joe Kipley. You have a guest.
Thank you, President Tony and fellow Rotarians. Introducing you to Matt Whitrock with Weiser Distributing and Sadie Swear with Downtown Sioux Falls. Both of them just graduated from the Leadership Sioux Falls program, and we'll be finding out more in our program today about some of the youth soccer programs in town, but that was their community service project for the Leadership Sioux Falls class of 36. So please help me in welcoming Matt and Sadie.
Sadie, Matt, welcome, and thank you for your work on this project. Candy Hansen.
President Tony and fellow Rotarians, my guest today is a friend of mine, Michelle Erpenbach, who was once a city councilor and is now the president of Sioux Falls Thrive.
Welcome, Michelle. Thank you, Candy. Jen Hazing.
President Tony and fellow Rotarians, I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today, Caden Whitman. She may be the only guest with a Micah 6'8" tattoo, so that's a fun fact for you. Just struck a chord there, I think. Caden is the Director of Marketing and Development at the Multicultural Center, serving neighbors. She is also seeking public office and is a candidate for the State House in District 12. Please help me welcome District 15. Help me welcome Caden.
Welcome, Caden, and thank you for being here today. Eric Erickson.
Thank you, President Tony. Fellow Rotarians, my guest today is an intern at Friends of SDPB this summer. This is Benjamin Connor. He's going to be a junior at SDSU. He's majoring in political science. we thought we'd give him a taste of sales and fundraising. He's actually no slouch when it comes to fundraising. He was named the Youth Philanthropist of the Year in 2019 with his work up in Howard with Horizon Health. He's originally from Winfred, and I've introduced him to a lot of you, but that's my goal this year, is to introduce him to all of you. So please welcome Benjamin Connor.
Welcome, Ben, and thank you, Eric. Let's stay at that table. Cindy Peterson.
Thank you, President Tony, fellow Rotarians. I would like to introduce a dear, dear friend, Stu Weber. Stu is the Director of Sales for the Denny Sanford Premier Center. His emphasis is on the convention center side. Please help me welcome Stu Weber.
Great to have you here, Stu. Randall Beck. We'll stay on that side.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my privilege to introduce a new friend, Callie Schock. Callie is the league coordinator for Sioux Falls Neighborhood Soccer.
Thanks for being here, Callie. And then Jesus, all the way on the other side here, Dave Brown has actually a fellow Rotarian here. I'll let him introduce Bob.
Thanks, President Tony, fellow Rotarians. I have with me today Bob Mathiasen. He's the Chief Operating Officer at Heritage Bank, works with me, and he's a roaming Rotarian, as I said, and a guest today.
Welcome, Bob. Thank you for being here, and thank you for inviting so many guests to be with us today. And I know you'll find today's program one that is insightful and valuable. Just a reminder, we are on our march towards 60 new members. We still have a bit over 10 to go to get to 60 by the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of June. So for those leaders in your life, those that are looking to get involved in the community and be part of something more than themselves, I'd ask that you consider inviting them to be members of Downtown Rotary. In your email this morning, you received a couple reminders. The Circle of Courage Assembly will happen this Thursday at Hawthorne Elementary at 2 p.m. Actually, it's Wednesday, correct? Wednesday, the 25th. That same day, the 25th, we have Rotary in the Know. We have a few spots left for our hard hat tour at Startup Sioux Falls. So that wall breaking happened here a couple weeks ago, and we're excited. Brianne Manor is a Rotarian, the executive director there, and she's going to lead us in a tour of that new space. And then finally, June 9th, 4:30 to 6, join us at our wine bar. There's information on your table for a member social. Now we'll turn our attention to today's program, and I'm going to invite Rotarians Joel Dykstra and Randall Beck to come forward, as well as Tamian Dysart. And as they're making their way forward, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about our panelists today. Many of you know them well. They're very involved in the community, but we'll share a little background. First, Tamian, seated in the middle, is Sioux Falls born and raised, a Roosevelt Rough Rider. Got his undergrad and grad degree at the University of Sioux Falls, where he got his MBA. The last 6 years, he has, along with his partner Vani Harari, who is a Rotarian, founded and he's a CEO of Think 3D, and that is a big part of what he does, but that's not all that he does, and you're going to learn a little bit more about what he does in the community. His wife, Lucretia, and they have 3 daughters. They live right here in Sioux Falls. The daughters are 25, 13, and 8. I'd say, Tamian, you look like you're holding up really, really well for having 3 daughters at that age. So welcome, Tamian, to the stage. Randall Beck, a longtime member of Downtown Rotary and a native of, get that, Kansas? Did I get that right? Arrived to Sioux Falls in 2001 and has spent his career in journalism. You may know most recently he was editor and publisher of the Argus Leader. Retired in 2014. I don't know if he's retired or just kind of rewired. He has been just as busy, it seems, since 2014, founding South Dakota News Watch. He's been heavily involved in mentoring. I know a lot of community initiatives, including the one that we're going to talk about here today. His wife, Linda, have 4 grown children and 3 13 grandchildren. I would ask that you help me in welcoming both Randall and Tamian. And we'll go ahead and turn it over to Joel to take it from here.
Well, I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to bring this story to Downtown Rotary today. It's something that we've been following for nearly a year, I guess even longer than a year. And perhaps the biggest story of all, I think, in this process is, Randall, maybe could you tell us about your career in soccer? And maybe just give us the
There it
long
was,
version.
right there. You heard it. I think you heard it, yeah.
Yeah, give us the long version. Tell us the background on how the Sioux Falls neighborhood soccer got started. And
Yeah.
why?
Thank you, Joel. We're just, Tammy and I are really honored to be here, so thank you for making time. It's a pretty simple story. It begins with a boy I have mentored for many years. His name is Roberto. He lives about 2 miles from here, just east and north, over just south of Rice Street. A very humble home with his mom and brother. And I've mentored him since second grade. And probably within a year or so after we were together, I started hearing in school what a phenomenal soccer player Roberto was. People just said again and again, he's the best soccer player at LBA, and he's only in third grade at the time, and that got my attention. And so I brought it up to Roberto one day at lunch and said, Roberto, I understand you're this great soccer player, and humbly, he's really a humble, smart kid. He acknowledged that he was pretty darn good, and that everybody always wanted him on his team. And so I said naturally, well, what kind of soccer club team are you on so I could come watch you on the weekends? Well, he's never played on an actual team. He's never had the opportunity, actually, to play on an organized team. He only plays sort of out in the street or in the backyards or at school. And he explained to me, again, humbly, that his mom worked and works today at Smithfield. Then on the killing floor, she worked sometimes extra jobs, extra hours to make ends meet for the family. Roberto was home taking care of his younger brother, and there was no capacity in that family's life for Roberto to do actually what my kids and my grandkids have just sort of taken for granted, and probably all of yours as well. So, it's like a lot of things that maybe you've experienced. It got sort of like a burr under my saddle, and it wouldn't let go. The fundamental unfairness of a kid like Roberto, a smart, charismatic kid who, and he could be mayor of the city. He's that talented and gifted, not getting a chance to do something as simple as playing a game that he loved, that he'd almost worshiped. And so, like a lot of things, it got under my skin and it wouldn't leave me. And then, to make a longer story short, through the encouragement of people in this community, people like Andy Patterson, Jay Powell, people like Dr. Stavum and the mayor, this man who's come to be a personal friend, folks in the community, I came to understand that, well, maybe I'm available to help kids like Roberto play soccer, to give them an opportunity. And so on the back of a napkin, literally, I created the idea of a neighborhood soccer league, very similar to what I grew up with in a tiny town in Kansas, where I could walk to my neighborhood park and practice and play with my baseball team. Except here in this Riverside community, everybody speaks a different language. It's not called baseball, it's called soccer. And so this idea emerged of creating a neighborhood soccer league. Got a lot of encouragement from everybody in the city, and applied for a grant. And last fall, having never kicked a soccer ball in my life, I helped with a lot of other people create the Riverside Soccer League. And we thought maybe we'd get 15, 20, 25 kids in a neighborhood with a small park where kids and families could walk to play a game, and we could provide for them at no cost the opportunity to play with experienced coaches. We got 85 kids who registered. And not only that, but for 7 Saturdays in a row, their moms and their dads and their grandmas and grandpas came to this park, this neighborhood park, and gloried in the opportunity to get to know each other really in many ways for the first time. We experienced refugee families getting to know families that have lived in the Riverside community, one of the most historic in Sioux Falls, for 5 generations. It was a near miracle that we experienced there. So yes, it was sort of about soccer, but what Tammy and I have talked about 1,000 times since then is this miracle of neighborhood development where people making friends strengthened automatically last fall. Just I think the muscle of that neighborhood, sharing information, bonding together, and experience what it really means to know your neighbors in really quite an amazing way. So that was my experience. And as I say, it was just dumb luck on my part. I had no bright idea that something miraculous would happen, but Tamian sort of just showed up hearing about this thing, and really kind of the rest is history.
Well, Damian, then maybe you can tell us a little bit about the objectives. Let's talk about what we're trying to accomplish, or what you guys have set out for yourself in terms of what development you want to happen here in the neighborhood. Is it about soccer, or we got something else? How else would we define success in this project?
For sure. As Randall actually, he coined it is developing community through soccer. Soccer is the vehicle, right? It's the entry point. And so when Randall and when I got introduced to Randall through Rich McCurris, found out we had been talking about this collaborative community engagement. How do we go into these neighborhoods that are under-resourced, underserved historically, and start to build pathways to betterment and empowerment and upliftment? And when I got with Randall, he had shared the story of the soccer program, and immediately I saw this is something that is obviously huge and is needed in our community. I serve on the board for Promising Futures with Steve Hildebrand, and so I'm very aware of a lot of the needs that we see in our Title I schools. And so you realize that most elementary schools lack PTAs. They lack a lot of the resources that, again, a lot of other schools have, and how important that is. And so as we got talking about that, how do you start to build the confidence and build the things in these kids? And immediately I said, we have to take this thing citywide. And it was almost an immediate thing to say, yeah, we could. It's doable. A lot of work to those things, but the ultimate goal, the thing that most excited me about it, was the community that was happening after the games. That at the time, Boys and Girls Club was providing food and allowing community to come together. I think there's an opportunity even in this that these communities can teach a lot of the rest of the community, kind of going back to what was maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, a true sense of community. In my neighborhood, I know my neighbors, but I don't really know my neighbors, right? And to see people gathering around this central thing that is an investment into the kids, because obviously the most pure place that you can invest is into our children, right? They're obviously the future. But to give them a chance of hope and opportunity and confidence, because I am the same as Randall on the side of my parents had enough means, probably, middle class, lower middle class, but still had enough means to play, Dakota Alliance soccer and play football and these different things. And you don't realize what happens when you don't have the finances, and probably more importantly, the location or the transportation. And how much do you miss out on as a kid from lack of teamwork or even playing with your friends? And so the overall objective is obviously planning the soccer leagues in all 10 of the Title I elementary schools. So again, everyone eventually has an opportunity to play. But on the back side of that, starting to build those relationships within the community. I think we've had several times over in the history of Sioux Falls where we've gone in and tried to, quote unquote, help in these neighborhoods. But like anything else, unless you have genuine relationship and unless you've built trust, which is the missing piece, you can show up with all the resources in the world, but if I don't know you, I don't trust you. We all understand that. And so on the backside of this, if you start to build those genuine relationships as the parents grow to trust this program, and you have people communing together and having conversations together, now from there we can say, what else is needed? What other things can come on the backside of this that we can start to upward mobilize and empower, not do for them, but giving them resources to, climb up with whatever that means to them, or have levels of success as everyone else has.
I should paint a a picture of our business model. It's very simple. Kids and families show up at 9 o'clock, and for 45 minutes, they do skills training with experienced certified coaches. These are not people like me, people who know soccer, men and women, and who teach them the fundamentals, how to play together as a team, how to kick the ball, how to score, how to pass, all of that stuff that is a part of the game. Then for 45 minutes, they scrimmage, they play games. They do, in an organized way, what most of them, about 95 to 96%, never played an organized sport in their life, have only dreamed of. And then after, as sort of Tamian indicated, then after that's done, we feed them. Of course, food is always a way to bring people together. So we contract with Hy-Vee now. We used Boys and Girls Club last fall. Now with 4 leagues, we have 4 leagues across the city in Garfield, Terry Redland, Cleveland, and also at LBA in the Riverside community. So Sioux Falls Neighborhood Soccer began last fall with a pilot. Now it's 4 leagues, and as Tamian said, our vision is for 10 to 12 leagues across the city in those core neighborhoods, and so it's a very simple model. It's not rocket science, and we have partnered with our friends at Dakota Alliance who have recognized sort of simultaneously the need for this in the city, and they have enthusiastically embraced the idea of bringing their qualified coaches into the core of the city and are providing great coaching firepower and leadership. And then we've also supplemented with high school coaches. I think about my new friend Dave Dancer from Washington High School. Some of you folks know Dave. He's an institution up there, winning coach, and he brings his high school players. And they learn what it's like to be a leader on the soccer field with elementary kids. And then we fill in some of the cracks there with moms and dads who are willing to sort of step in and coach. So it's sort of a patchwork, but with a certified Dakota Alliance coach at the top of that. And then every kid, when he or she starts, gets a shirt, a ball, and shin guards. So everything they need to really play the game.
I don't know why I wasted all that time writing questions.
Well, I mean, I thought folks
No,
ought to know.
yeah,
what
it's great.
looks like
It's great, and
level.
you guys are. I'm interested a little bit in the in the effect here, the outcome, because obviously neighborhoods there have been programs who've tried to build something in some of the neighborhoods in the past. We've tried other projects and initiatives which were not successful. Here we have something that is it's kind of come together organically, particularly with all these organizations. I mean, you mentioned the shin guards and the nets and the balls and all that stuff. They didn't pay for that, right?
Our friends at Shields have provided at no cost all of the equipment. And that's not just what I mentioned, but that's the goals and the pennies and the cones and all of the stuff that we've needed. So it's been an enormous support for us. And then behind that, or for other costs, we have our business partners. I guess I'd like Tamian to sort of touch on that. I mean, we see the business community as a vital piece of the support for this, which is one reason why it's important for you to hear from us here. And I think I want Tamian to talk about that, Joel. But what I'd like to point to is that at the core of this is actually a network of school church partnerships in this community where churches have literally stepped in to partner with, adopt, if you will, schools in our title neighborhoods. They just need help. Tamian mentioned they don't have PTOs. So these churches, in many cases, are walking alongside, meeting basic needs, mentoring kids, helping in the classroom, providing some financial assistance where it's helpful, really walking alongside. And so my church last fall, Oak Hills Baptist, was a longtime partner for LBA, so that provided the foundation for our partnership there. And they provide volunteers, not money, but volunteers, which, most things in the community, it's not a financial problem, it's a people problem. And so we think that's been a big part of the success of this.
Jamie, talk a little bit about how the community is forming. I mean, what's happening with the folks in the neighborhood, and these people know each other. I mean, I get the impression that they're meeting each other for the first time, even those who've lived in the neighborhood for a long time.
I think that a huge testament to that was, now that we're in season 2 at LBA, there was a handful of parents who got together and said, we wanted to organize to do something special for the teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week. That's the start of a PTA, right? That's the beginning seedlings of those type of things. And so once you can start to create people to engage and to meet each other around this common thing of soccer, I do think obviously it will take some time to, again, obviously they're dropping off their kids, making sure everything's safe. But once they see that we're showing up again in the following season and see the investment, that trust will start to get built. A big area of opportunity in that is patience, right? Is obviously, I think a lot of things have tried before, but I think some of the success in that is once you start to have these parents getting together. Now, I don't think we're seeing the same thing in every neighborhood where the parents are all sticking around. And how do you start to build community beyond that? I think that's the next phase or the next challenge, because step one is getting all the logistics up. So obviously having Callie there to help run logistics day to day on Saturdays is a huge first step. Just making sure that you have sustainability in the program. But then behind that, how can we continue to work with our church partners to truly engage with the parents while the kids are playing? Engage, build those relationships. I think Randall, something that he probably won't say out loud, but again, he was so critical in LBA because it's genuinely who you are. He got to know all the parents' names. He got to know the kids' names. And there's that genuine authenticity that you just can't show up and just try to do. It's genuine nature of who he is. But that's the ceiling of what it takes to truly build those relationships, so you can start to ask the parents to step up and keep it going.
So let's talk about that.
Can I volunteer one thing? And I'm always willing to do that. I mentioned earlier about Roberto. I mean, because this really began with about the kids. So this is what we're seeing in the schools. If Dr. Staben were up here, she would say this is that this is reverberating through the schools. So in Riverside last fall, we noticed kids are getting team shirts for the first time in their lives. Think about that. We just sort of take that for granted, that from the time they're 4, they start joining teams. Here we got 5th graders, 3rd graders, 4th graders wearing shirts for the first time, their own shirt with a number on it, with a team affiliation, with a certain color. So they're wearing them, of course, they're not just wearing them on Saturday. They wear them into the classroom on Monday and Tuesday. And other kids are saying, well, what's that thing you're wearing there? What, you're on a team? You're on a team? And that creates in this school, LBA last fall and others this spring, a buzz. Kids start to talk about that. It creates a sort of just this excitement, this idea of like you're part of something bigger than just you and maybe the problems that you woke up to this morning at home. So it's a big thing. I think if Wade Hellison, the principal at LBA, were here, he would say that it's just created something special, a feeling, a team spirit, if you will, in that school that I think will have ramifications on academics and other and attendance and all of those things over the long term that we think will make those kids a success in life. Sorry.
Oh, right. Yeah. You've mentioned we've mentioned several of the key parts of this consortium, this organization that come together. I just think oftentimes we talk about about the various institutions as potential challenges or roadblocks to some of this stuff happening. I think one of the truly amazing parts of this is that we haven't really run into any in your work in developing this. Let's just for the benefit of the Downtown Rotary members, let's identify some of those. What have you got? What has this reaction been from the city, from the mayor's office, from the Parks office?
That's such a great story because my friend Don Carney was one of the first people that I approached last fall to say, Don, There's this park up here with this marvelous green space, undesignated. Could we use 7 Saturdays in the fall to, reserve it? Could we use, by the way, could we also use the shelter there? And could you open the bathrooms early? And could you also provide a mobile storage unit for us to store our equipment in it from Saturday to Saturday? He said yes to every one of those. He never even hesitated. He immediately saw the potential. So now that's happening in 4 leagues. At Spellerberg Park, Meldrum, and Frank Olson, the city has done the same thing for us this spring, setting aside those areas. So Don and the mayor, of course, saw this as a way to really provide opportunity for those kids. I also want to mention, along with this, we're not the only ones to think about soccer as a unifying tool in the city, right? There are a lot of, say, young people who got it before I did. People like Leo Diaz and Zach Ochoga and Moses Idris, people from our diverse communities here. They understood long before I did, Tamian even, that soccer was a unifying force, and they're out there kind of doing it out of their back pocket. They are cheering us on and I think supporting us because it helps them as well.
Well, how about the school system? I mean, it's sometimes challenging for the school district to cooperate with particularly with churches or outside organizations and other kinds of things. What's your experience been with the school district?
For me, it's been phenomenal. I think Dr. Stabum, I really wasn't engaged with a lot of community stuff prior to, but she's just been so welcoming, understanding, gets it. It's about partnership. I think everything in our community should be about partnership. Even from in the fall, we had a contingency plan. Arana had a contingency plan of if there was inclement weather, what do? We wanted these kids excited for it, willing to open up the school gym if necessary. Now, thankfully, in the fall, we didn't have any issues with that, but it truly is being able to step outside of whatever your one slice is, and this is truly a community opportunity. We know that these are kids who deserve the same chance and opportunity as everyone else gets, but you're not going to have one or two entities that can solve that. It takes a true collaboration. So I think that's been one of the most amazing things, from the churches to the schools to the city to businesses stepping forward to help provide financial support. United Way, that collaboration around seeing the need, and everyone gets and understands the need, but getting the people to buy in and collaborate is often a challenge. It's been phenomenal to see people come forth and say, we get it, and let's do it. All yeses.
And so the lunch, where'd the food come from? Hy-Vee's contributed the food. Boys and Girls Club has been participating.
Boys and Girls Club, Rebecca Wimmer, amazing advocate, sort of in the spirit of Tamian's points there, is from the very early on recognized the potential for this. So Rebecca was an early adopter, and literally 7 Saturdays in a row, not only did Rebecca on Saturday morning bring the food, she prepared the food. So the leader of Boys and Girls Club last fall, bringing the food and preparing it, and then helping serve it to the family. So absolutely, she's been, nobody's said no. Nobody has said no.
That was a big one where we knew that obviously Boys and Girls Club wasn't going to be able to sustain that over the 4, and then eventually trying to get to 10 leagues. And so that's when we actually approached United Way to say, hey, this is a thing that, could we approach them to say, would you be willing to fund the food portion of this? Because we grow from, ideally we have the 4 leagues this spring, move it to 7 in the fall. Would they be able to provide the financial support so we can have the food portion taken care of? And again, typically, I think United Way, once you see a program up and running for a while, it was a yes from them as well, because they got it as well.
So our numbers, Joel, right now we have for spring soccer, we have I think our final number was around 270 or so kids registered at the 4 different leagues. I'd say our attendance has been less than that, a little bit spotty, particularly in one in the Garfield area. It's such a huge attendance area. It's been more difficult for us to sort of build a sort of a neighborhood identity there, unlike maybe some of the others. But we just think we just had a great engagement with the parents, and we're seeing too, parents they're dropping off their kids, which we didn't really anticipate, because I think there's a trust there that this is a good thing for their kids, and they recognize this is something that they need.
And the community, the neighborhoods are diverse in themselves, right? I mean, and people who haven't really mixed before because they didn't have that opportunity or
Right, for sure.
the
It's-
occasion to come together
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
that way.
Yeah.
So you have 200, 300 kids
Yep.
every Saturday
Yep.
here for these 4 leagues, and then 10 leagues in the fall.
Well, that's a little ambitious now. I think Jamie.
Well, compared to what? I mean, compared to what you've already got.
What we don't want to do is we don't want to sort of kick off a league before it's time. We want to make sure that everything we do is excellent, well run. So a foundation of that is those church partnerships. So those churches are really key to being able to execute, provide volunteers, and we want to make sure that we are the coaches. If we'll make sure it's a good coaching experience. So I think maybe 3 in the fall will be more realistic in terms of launching, but that'll mean 7. That'll be 7 leagues that are operating simultaneously, which is no small challenge. And Tammy didn't mention, but this is part of the vision. Is that this is not? We don't see this as what you might call transactional generosity. This is something where we're investing now in these neighborhoods for these parents, for these grandparents to take ownership so that we're not just always going there and delivering, here's this thing for you, right? But there are many good things that are based on, you come to the banquet, help serve, come back next week or whatever. This is something we think we sort of work ourselves out of a job, where those parents, those neighborhoods will begin at some point to take on this effort. So it's not us just doing it for them, it's them doing it for themselves. And that's really the goal here. So we're being very intentional. So in Riverside, we're a little bit ahead because we're 2 seasons in. All of the food is now served by parents. We've got 3 to 4 dads primarily. We're still looking for moms willing to step into this who will come out and help the coaches, on the drills and that kind of thing. So it's taking hold. We've also drawn dads into helping set up equipment and taking it down. So again, this is not something that we're doing for as much as showing this is how you do it so the neighborhoods can take that on themselves over time.
I think one extra benefit that I wasn't aware of going into this, but we're hearing stories of it is, you think about grade school kids, right? When you're in grade school, they're very innocent. They have their friends at school. But then the ones that actually have an opportunity to go play outside sports, they build deeper relationships because you're more frequency of seeing your friends, those type of things. We're now seeing kids who go play in Dakota Alliance, if they're not playing a game at 9 a.m., showing up in their neighborhood because they want to play with their friends too. And that's a very important thing. If you look at the world just from a simplistic, we'll call it have and have nots, the families that may not be able to afford those things, over time, they get to middle school. And if the ones that can keep playing soccer over here, but then they don't get a chance to, those relationships start to distance. Having this opportunity where they keep those relationships and you're fostering more opportunities for them to collaborate, engage, have fun with their friends outside of the school hours, those will deepen those relationships, which I think over a long term will help keep those friendships and connectivity much stronger and tighter that hopefully would carry in beyond, grade school into adulthood.
So just play this forward for us a little bit. Imagine a couple of 100 kids, 300 kids as the years go on, have this experience, these communities start to develop in these neighborhoods. What impact do you see in the community 5 and 10 years down the road?
For me, the vision, again, saying that soccer is the vehicle to build deeper communities. Our next step in the work that we're trying to accomplish and bridging the gap, if you would, around getting communities to collaborate deeper is partnering with the school system and partnering with businesses to say, all right, now we know some of the opportunities. Could you start to go in maybe on a weeknight and provide financial literacy to the parents? Could you come in and start to provide, counseling? That's one of the biggest things. You talk about these neighborhoods, people have a lot of unaddressed trauma. And you talk about one of the major issues. What if you can, on the backside of these relationships, if you can start to provide some of these resources, again, collaborate with the right organizations to bring some of those in these neighborhoods, because transportation is the number one. I think finance is number 2. But if you can bring resources to these individuals, again, you start to create a pathway of upward mobilization and empowerment, where a lot of them, again, they don't seek for these things because they have the parents that are working 2 jobs. They don't have, I don't know where to start, how to find these things. So I think the closing the economic gap is going to be huge, because we see it happening with different parts of our community. Giving them resources to build the confidence and give the parents the skills, because you can provide fun for that kid on a Saturday morning, but if he's still going home to that same tough environment at home without the parents having an opportunity to get better, you're going to see a lot of the same issues. But if you can start to now also resource and invest into the parents and the adults and give them pathways of betterment, now you start to change generational issues and start to provide different opportunities where kids start to look for things much beyond they ever thought before.
Our friend Timmy and I have formed a great friendship with a young guy named Leo Diaz. Leo played soccer for USF, fell in love with the city and stayed, and he's raising a family here. And Leo has a passion for soccer, and using, as we have it, as a vehicle to build excellence and build relationships. And so he runs a sports academy, soccer academy over at Our Lady of Guadalupe in the gym there year round. And he gets 50 or 60 kids in this gym with moms and dads all sort of in their folding chairs all the way around watching what's happening there. But he's also doing just what Tammy has described. He recognized the mental health needs, financial literacy, what's the path to home ownership. So he is actually bringing in people in the community who can share knowledge. Knowledge is power for these moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas. So Leo is doing that in many ways, in a way that we see the long-term plan. I also want to sort of, in a more practical way, my dream is to see a city championship. Tammy and I have talked about that. Wouldn't it be a great thing a year or two from now to have a championship at the end? So Lowell plays Hayward for the city championship, and all of these families come to one place, wherever that one place is, in the core of the city, not on the fringes, and they celebrate what these girls and boys are learning. They get to know each other in a powerful way and develop that pride of what it means to win the city championship. I think that could be just in many ways a strengthening, wonderful development for this city, all of us, no matter where we live.
So it's a great success. We're in the second year, second iteration. Another way you could look at it is that you've created a lot of expectations. In some ways, you've created a monster here. What does the organizational structure look like 1 year on and going forward? How do you sustain this?
Well, we don't know. That's an honest answer, right, Tammy? And I mean, we're discussing that now. We are sort of a victim of our early success, and we're very conscious of our need to, with business support, community support, to have structure that is trustworthy to the community. We're lucky enough to have a great relationship with the Community Foundation, so they are our fiscal agent and sort of our house right now, while we are having those conversations about what does a long-term sort of organization look like. The last thing this community needs is yet another 501c3. So our inclination is to not do that. So we're just sort of looking at creative ways that we can build an organization. Callie alone can't do it. She's done a great job. She's kind of working part-time with all of her other community and family responsibilities. And so we're trying to figure out what a year from now it looks like to sustain this and keep it going while also investing in this community. So the answer is we don't know yet, but we're looking at lots of different options, because we think we do need to have a clear, transparent structure that everyone can kind of look at and see and acts as a model for maybe other things.
I think you alluded to it. We are blessed with a large number of nonprofits in Sioux Falls of all stripes and kinds. What else could you challenge the group? What other kinds of services or organizations would be welcome to join the team?
Yeah, I think at current, of the 10 Title I schools that we were looking to get into, we have 7 of the 10 sponsored. So again, we go to a direct business, say, would you be a sponsor for this neighborhood? So we have 3 more that we're trying to find out. It's $12,000 a year for an organization to sponsor a neighborhood, which includes all the equipment. Obviously, as the league grows, Shields won't be able to provide it for everyone. So that's a need. And I would say as well, if organizations, volunteers, I think that's going to be one of the ones that, obviously relying heavily on church partnerships, which is huge. It's challenging the neighborhoods themselves to start to get the parents involved, which is big. But we also need to have that backing of people, not even just to show up to build or help do the soccer or coach, those type of things, or even serve food, but to show up and just meet and greet the neighbors. Like, that's the part where whose responsibility is as we look at the separation that's happening. I think getting more businesses and people to show up and just volunteer to meet people where they are is a huge need. And so if companies have, a few Saturdays that they want to organize 5 to 6 people to show up, we'd love to promote that and have them, hey, come over to this neighborhood, meet the kids and the parents and see what's happening. And so I think volunteers is going to be one over the next few years to make sure that we have that sustainability from the ground up is going to be a big need.
And along with that, we've got from our church 2 young families after promotion within our church come forward this spring, and the adults are volunteering and the kids are playing soccer. So I love that model. So they recognize, well, here's an opportunity. We don't have to pay anything for our kids to play soccer with these other kids, and then we're going to roll up our sleeves and help. So I think that's a good model. Whatever company you work with, here's just something that employees could do and bring their kids and get them involved. So the whole, it's a great opportunity. And I do think this, Timmy, I'm going to tell you this, you go one Saturday, it'll change you. And you'll want to come back the second Saturday. That's my prediction. And it does happen and it happens, and it happens, and it happens. There's something in about, well, this is not my neighborhood, but these are my neighbors. And it's a powerful thing to step into the life of someone else and get to know them in a real way. And this is an example of being able to do that. So anybody here, I would invite you to come watch us. We have 2 Saturdays left, June 4th and June 11th, and we'd love to have you stop by and ask questions and meet folks.
Tammy, do you think we're developing something here in Sioux Falls that could be a model for other cities around the country or other places that we could apply this model?
100%. I mean, soccer is the most universal sport. You can start there. You start, the right age to start is elementary. Kids, again, I think it works in this model. Once you get into middle school, like middle school kids are not going to want to scrimmage all day long. They're going to want to start playing. So you have some different challenges that we'll face as we look to say what happens after elementary, but just the right age, the right groups, again, around the neighborhood part where, again, you have the travel impediments kind of reduced because there's a neighborhood park right there. And so you have all the components for success. Obviously, you'll need a few individuals to, kind of step up and lead that, but I think it's a model that can serve well anywhere.
I just remembered one thing we should have said. A shout out to Police Chief John Toom. John has been a coach. John's been coaching at Garfield, I think, right, Callie? And so John and Andy Siebenborn have both been coaching there. They happen to know soccer and haven't done a lot promotionally in the community, so they've been there. But that John has also ensured that there's a police officer at every one of our leagues. So these officers are not just sort of sitting in their squad cars. They're out there mingling with the kids. They're giving them stickers, building relationships with their families. So that's another way that's strengthening that neighborhood. So it's another idea of how everyone is leaning into the opportunity here. So it's out of sync, but I think it's important to note.
Yeah, what that really brings to my mind is that it's such a cool thing, and it's such an important thing. It would be would be a real tragedy if we lost it. And if we didn't realize the potential that what you've started here in in less than a year so far, track record, isn't realized somehow. So two pieces. One is, and maybe Randall, maybe you identified that with your appeal for volunteers, but what can Downtown Rotary do? How can we be involved in this? What would be meaningful and helpful? And then two, how do we all get the word out and continue to build on the buzz here so that so that we add to the momentum and continue to grow this program?
We should both take a whack at that. I guess I feel like, I think personally, and like I said already, I would just welcome anybody to stop by and see what it's like to experience true neighborhood development. It really is a miraculous thing to witness and to be a part of. But I think, like Tamian said, we're looking for, is it 3 businesses? So we're looking for 3 businesses between now and next year to step forward and say, our business would love to support this idea. It's an important thing. So we're not here to solicit donations. That's not what we do, and we know that's not really what Rotary does. But it does seem like this is the right audience to be able to be transparent, and that's what will make us a success. I think, in part for the long term, is to have ongoing business to support, to see how this invests in our city and makes it stronger for everyone.
I think for me, obviously we'll have some video coming out showcasing that. I think this room is filled with leaders and influencers. It's having the conversations about not just what's happening, but when you really talk about what is it going to take to truly close the gap in some of these areas, not just within the opportunities in one particular neighborhood, but we have to start as leaders, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And that means showing up to things where you're in neighborhoods where people don't look like us, or you don't know that individual. It's a very uncomfortable thing to do. We have a community table talk this Wednesday night. And, again, we have over probably 150 people showing up to talk about how do you advance the community. What's easy, again, money is needed 100%, but that's probably the easiest thing to do is write a check. It's showing up and building relationship. It's showing up and getting uncomfortable. I may not speak the same language per se, but we all have more in common than we have different in this community. We want safe communities, we want good schools, we want opportunities for growth. But as we grow in diversity and those type of things, I think the biggest one is challenging each other to say, in the last, at least once a quarter, where have you gotten uncomfortable? And if we can start to challenge each other to go get uncomfortable, to go to where the needs are, to go see, because you can't have compassion from a distance. You have to build the relationships. Once, like Ryan just said, once you see it, you can't unfeel it. And so there's a lot of again, a lot of great things happen in this community, but we also still have a lot of work to do. And so being willing to be uncomfortable, step in the arena, and raise your hand to do the work and build the relationships.
Well, let me ask one closing question, Randall. You started out by telling us about a young man you were mentoring, and of course that resonates in this organization because Downtown Rotary has a commitment to mentoring around the city, and hopefully we can follow your lead in that and see those relationships develop. But what happened to Roberto?
Yeah. Well, I'm still Roberto's mentor. He can't get rid of me. And he just graduated. He's graduated 8th grade from Whittier, and he's headed to Washington High School, where he will play soccer. I've introduced him to Dave Dantzler. It's the power of knowing people in a community, right? And there's no spot guarantee, but Roberto's a great soccer player. And while he didn't get the chance, I acted too late for Roberto in elementary school. He's had the opportunity elsewhere to play soccer. So he's going into high school, I think, well positioned to be able to play soccer and to do, it wasn't maybe he was not destined to do that, but he's going to do it anyway, because people are willing to step into his life and say, this kid's just as good as my kid. He should get a chance. He's a smart kid. He's accomplished. He could be mayor of this town. So I have high hopes for him, and he's still around, and I'm really proud of him. So.
Spoken like a true campaign manager.
All
All right. Well, thank you all very much for your contribution to Downtown Rotary today. We'll turn it back to Tony and take it from there.
Please join me in saying thank you to both Randall and Tamian for being here and for their impact on our community. Another example of a special community that we live in. We look forward to having you back because we do want to see how this story plays out. I'd love to meet some of these kids, and a challenge, and Tamian and Randall said it well. You get an opportunity here June 4th and June 11th. Look at the calendar, a chance to stop out and see these kids in action. And excited for what that looks like, and can't wait for that future city championship. So with that, we are going to go ahead and adjourn. Looking ahead, next week is Memorial Day. So we're going to pay tribute to those who provided the ultimate sacrifice in defending our freedom. And then looking ahead to the week after, we have a great program that you're not going to want to miss. South Dakota Hall of Fame inductees. That ceremony just happened this past Saturday. Rotarians Dan Kirby and Marion Sullivan were inducted. So we're going to have a panel discussion about their lives and have an opportunity to honor them on June 6th. So with that, Rotary is adjourned. Have a great week.